thank you all for attending our virtual summit on volunteerism and civic engagement. You know, this is the 10th annual, which is quite a feat, and we have been reflecting on our office what it means to have been a part of something that has grown so large over the last 10 years. In 2011, when this was getting started, it was just an idea that a group of folks had, and they met for coffee one day and birthed the summit. And we've been running it ever since. And it's had several different locations for a couple of years. It was at Arizona Central College in Casa Grande or Coolidge, and then we have held it at the ASU West campus in Phoenix, and then now we're trying our hand at the virtual service delivery like so many folks have this year. Thank you all for participating and being here with us today. My name is Emily Litchfield. I am the Director of AmeriCorps and volunteer initiatives for the state of Arizona, working at the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family. And I have the privilege to be able to work with my team to bring you some amazing speakers for this workshop series over the next few days. I was telling our speakers, Melissa and Deidre, today, we have had just 2 incredible workshops, and I'm recognizing a number of folks have been in 1 or 2 of those today, and thank you for sticking with us all day. I will go ahead and introduce our speakers in just a moment, but I do want to let folks know that we are recording the session today, and the session will be available on the GOYFF website for about 4 weeks following the summit. So if you would like to come back and view, or if you hear something that you think would be great to share with friends and colleagues, then you will be able to do that. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Deidre Crawley and Melissa Hernandez from the Center for Service and Volunteerism at Northern Arizona University. Deidre takes pride in bringing diverse learning and service opportunities to individuals, programs, organizations, and communities. She brings a lifetime of knowledge of the impact experiential learning and the potential every individual has to positively contribute to their community. Deidre is excited to facilitate training and opportunities where everyone will communicate, learn, and share the practices that make a difference. Deidre has a master's degree in educational leadership and a bachelor's degree in secondary education. With over 25 years of successful career, courses, certifications, and experiences that have helped shape her leadership, educational, and communication styles. She calls home Flagstaff, Arizona, and is a believer in communities for all ages. And joining Deidre is Melissa Hernandez. Melissa designs and implements learning approaches within educational systems. She is dedicated to the development of innovative and meaningful professional learning communities. Melissa has worked in higher education for 17 years and is currently pursuing a PhD in higher education at the University of Arizona. She holds a master's degree in counseling and a bachelor's degree in psychology. Melissa has worked in national service in Arizona for 17 years and serves as a trainer and coach for the Service Enterprise Initiative, has taught college-level psychology and student success classes for 12 years, chairs 2 educational committees, a board member for the National Senior Corps Association, and serves as a Friends of the Foundation board member, which offers scholarships to underrepresented students with outstanding achievement. She has helped develop tools that assist with programs, process, and strategy development. So without further ado, I will preface, I'm going to mute myself, but my dogs might go crazy in about 1 minute because we have guests. Take it away, Deidre and Melissa.
Good morning. This is Deidre. Hi,
And go ahead. Next slide. Oh, we're still, sorry. I'm ahead of the game. We're getting the slides loaded up. Hang on one second. I'll go ahead and start introducing myself. I'm Deidre Crawley, and thank you to Emily for that, for the bio. Just a fun fact about me and technology is I've been working with technology for a little bit of time. I started when you had to do programs with punch cards, and I had to print my reports and from one side of the campus, and then it printed on the other side of the campus. And I will tell you that that was still better than using a typewriter. So no matter what kind of technology you're using now or in the future, just go ahead and do it. It's always going to be better than not. Melissa?
And hi everybody, I'm Melissa Hernandez. And although, I've had the wonderful opportunity to help launch and design a technology program for our organization, one of the aspects that I don't use much is actually social media. In fact, my husband and I have a combined Facebook account where he actually posts everything. And then, sometimes I just chime in, oh yeah, that we should add that. So I'm not, I don't know everything about technology, but we have been learning along the way. Next slide. All right, so as we start this training, we will be discussing how to develop a training deployed on technology about technology, how to get started by identifying resources and funding, collecting data and understanding the needs of your stakeholders, how to implement your program, and understand the practical skills to train and identify obstacles and areas of opportunity, and how to manage data. Lastly, after we've walked through the other elements, we will discuss how to deliver your project and discuss how regular feedback will help enhance future iterations of your project. Next slide.
So one of the things that you have happen when you're working in a learning environment, and we hope for a collaborative learning environment, is that you set some ground rules about the process. So this is one of the slides that we started with our program, where learning is a dynamic process and changing and improving is key to our learning process. Learning new technology can be scary, exciting, frustrating, liberating, and creating a safe, respectful learning environment is key to learning new skills and information. And so then we go through 3 key components of collaborative learning, and we ask our participants what that looks like for them. So they actually start the collaborative process by telling us how to listen to others and what that looks like, how to support others and what that looks like. And most importantly, that when you're learning, it's okay not to be perfect, that we can go forward and we can make mistakes and we can learn. And this creates a safe learning environment. So this is our first collaborative learning environment moment. And we really appreciate y'all being here. It's a huge group, and we're going to try to answer as many questions as we can and give you so much information that your heads are going to spin by the end. And so with that, we're going to move forward to our next slide.
All right. So in the chat box, please go ahead and introduce yourself and your agency, the agency you're with, and one fun fact about yourself in the chat box. We'll give you just a couple of minutes for everybody to participate. All right, I see that we've got a couple of people, lots of folks from around the state. Chicanos por la Causa, Brianna. We've got TJ Gaudelli. Excellent. Be Connected. Love to ride bike. Allison. Welcome, everybody.
I like the pulling weeds. I like pulling weeds too.
All right. Next slide.
So in the chat box, after everybody's like, there's so many chats going in, it's kind of overwhelming. I love it. We're going to post our a link to a Jamboard. If you've ever used a Jamboard, this is where you can put a Post-it note and you will be able to see what other people are doing. And we want to know what you hope to get out of this particular session. So in a few short words, do a little Post-it. Hopefully they'll all fit. And we'll be able to see what other people are expecting or what your hopes and dreams are for this session. We'll try to fulfill those. And as soon as you start posting, we should start seeing it pop up on the screen, hopefully. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a little sticky note. That's what I used. And then I typed the information in there. So I hope to fulfill your hopes and dreams. No problem there.
Deidre, it looks like some people are seeing just a view only option instead of just the edit.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Oh, I hope to. Haha. All right. So obviously it was supposed to be shared with anyone with a link can do this. Let me see if I can get that. And if it doesn't work, we'll just move on and go ahead. In fact, we're going to move on. It didn't work. And I don't want to take a lot of time figuring this out. That happens, but I see a lot of people joining, but you can't put your notes in there. So we'll move to the next thing. This is what we do and how we do our presentations. Please go ahead and post what you hope to have in the chat box.
Thank you.
Well, we tried.
New ways to engage are some of the ones that are popping up. Yes, and just a gentle reminder for folks to stay muted. Tips on building virtual relationships. How to become how to teach in a virtual world. How to make technology less scary.
Confidence in electronic communication.
Love it. Yes, and I hope that will definitely give you guys some good questions to continue asking as you continue building your foundation and ways to reflect as you refine it. All right. Thank you for everybody that participated in the chat. So one of the biggest things that we want to do for you as we move forward in this presentation this afternoon is for you to literally be able to take something away. And so what we've done here is we have a planning tool link, and we're going to have that shared in the chat in just a few minutes. And essentially what we've done is we have created a Google Doc, and we want you to download it to your personal computer. Deidre, it looks like we need access to that document. And what we'll do is you guys will go ahead and download it. And throughout the presentation, we have several different prompts for you to address during this time and during the different objectives. So we want you to be able to capture the takeaways, the aha moments, and ideas that you have for, from your organization from today's session. And this will help you start a plan for your own project. You're going to download a copy of this, and I'm going to go ahead and, yes, I'm going to go ahead and have us go to the next slide. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and put the document itself into the chat. So I'll be doing that in just a sec.
Believe it or not, we've been working on this technology for quite some time and had tested it and thought that we had it all set up. But this is also what happens and how you have to move forward. And I'm going to figure out very shortly why that link is not working for you all and share it with everyone. But as we're looking at it, what we're doing right now, we wanted to tell you that one of the reasons why we're here is because of our volunteers. And that's why we were excited to share this information with you. So we're going to show you a very, very short video of one of our volunteers. The last thing that we do in our virtual training with our iPad participants is have them present to us so that they can use the tools. We believe that it's important for our trainees to experience it and experience how to actually use the tools that we've been giving to them. So if we can go ahead and, oh, I'm so hopeful that this part of our technology works. If you can show the video, oh, look, things are looking good so far. Go ahead and hit play.
There's no audio.
Thank you. Oh, Melissa.
When you shared your screen, did you select share computer audio? Because that might be the issue.
Emily, can you hear us? Emily may not be able to hear us yet.
But thank you. That's one of the tips that I learned over and over again, was that you have to share audio on your Zoom screen in order for it to work.
Oh, just kidding. Here it is. I got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was like right there. Okay.
Is there something supposed to be happening?
Yes, the video is supposed to be playing right now with the sound. And Emily just said that that was supposed to be happening at this time.
I'm just
Okay.
seeing.
Oh,
I can
okay, here we go. Here we go. It's loading.
Thank you, Emily, for giving the update.
You're welcome. I am just really moving slow today.
enter this morning. Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you.
Milagro Sierra. Okay, now I'm going to share.
The one and only. Basically, my presentation is very short and sweet. I titled it What I've Gained, and the subtitle is Inner Workings. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, so I took it literally, the questions that were asked, and I said the advantages. Tools which thoughtfully connect me to the outside world. An integrated workspace that's simple to use. It lets me spend less time managing my work and more time actually doing it. And the second major point is the flexibility of solutions to use to communicate with my peers and the community, allowing me to work from anywhere on my device, even offline, with tools which will integrate, customize, and extend my efforts to meet my community's unique needs. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sayonara, arrivederci, ciao, do svidania.
I love it. This is great.
So that was one of our volunteers, and this was at the end, and she has been with us from the beginning. And we thought that it was important for us to share that with you so that you can see how much growth. This was a person who never had used Zoom in the very beginning and has moved through and now is able to put together a presentation, and it works. So we'll move to the next slide. Also, I put in the chat that it said that everybody with that link should be able to get to that document, but apparently that's not working at this moment. So I'm working on getting that done while we move through the slides. You won't need it until we get into the first breakout room. So hopefully by then we'll have everybody with a link to the document and we'll be able to share that. Apologies and thank you very much for your patience. Next slide.
And Deidre, I'm going to jump in just a second. Melissa just emailed me the document, so I'm going to download it and then I'll post the actual document into the chat for everybody.
Fantastic, Randy. That will make it so much easier for all of us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right, so hopefully we'll get Randy access to that real quick, and if not, we'll make sure that everybody gets the information throughout this time together. So as we're getting started in this section, we're going to cover a couple of things. But before we do that, I want to talk about how we got started. So at the onset of the pandemic, everything was paused, as if you don't remember, right? And we weren't sure how things were going to happen in the future. However, the one thing that we were sure of was that we needed to stay connected with our volunteers. The only way that we knew to do that was first we had to have our volunteers call in to our conference calls. So that way we could be together, keeping in touch with our volunteers, trying to unpack how are they doing. However, this was very frustrating because volunteers could not see who was talking or when someone was about to talk. As you know, that when you're on the phone, there's some of these nuances that you just can't understand. So everyone would talk over each other or call out, Melissa, 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 and interrupt each other. Or breathe heavily, have the television on loud, et cetera, et cetera. So we knew that we needed to do something else. We had to have a different strategy. It was at this time that our director at the time was using a different platform, which had features that at this time that we were trying to look for something else that would work better for our group, the features were more developed. And so we switched over to that particular platform and began teaching our volunteers conference call etiquette. Deidre?
And while all this was going on, I was starting to notice that the world was turning to Zoom to communicate. This was brand new, not something that we're all very familiar with at this time. So I thought, well, we need to have training on the staff. So I took it upon myself to become the Zoom expert for our particular staff and be able to share with them all of the tricks that I knew at that time about how to use Zoom, how to communicate with Zoom. And then this magical moment happened where the two worlds converged, where my training was staff was coming together and Melissa was moving towards training her volunteers on how to use Zoom. And we started to talk to each other about what are we going to do? We have to find a way to help our volunteers connect with technology because the isolation is just getting out of hand. And as many of you may know, there's probably going to be a lot of data coming out that's going to talk about how isolation isn't good for anyone. And we do need to connect and communicate with each other. So we started talking about this with our director. We started working together on how this might work. We started to do Zoom trainings. And as all of this is going on, we're looking at resources and how we can maybe fund getting our volunteers devices. So we talked with our NAU IT department, and we're going to go into more details about these things because we had to work with NAU. That's our funding agency and where we live. And so we started to talk to them about that and how they could help us to move forward with the big idea of getting all of our volunteers connected through a device on a similar platform and be able to communicate and connect in the future. Next slide. So when you're going through and identifying your resources and funding and the different information, it's important to identify a goal. And as I stated before, we were looking at what is it that we're seeing. And Melissa and I were starting to work with our clients on Zoom, and some of them had phones and some of them had Windows-based or PCs, and some had Apples and some had iPhones and some had Androids. And when we were working on training on all of those different environments, we saw that we needed to come up with a better way for helping. And it became clear that this was the time when we needed to assess and find out what to do. So we started to think about one particular way to do this. Because we're in that larger institution, we had to follow the protocols that came with it. So we started to look at the resources that we could use and how we might be able to fund this with our particular volunteers. Our director went to our portfolio manager and said, can we use some of our funding that we haven't been able to use in the pandemic to move forward with getting iPads for our volunteers? We did the research. We decided this was the best platform, the best way we could move forward in our organization to help our volunteers stay connected. So we identified a goal, we got it started, we looked at the resources that we needed, where we needed to find that funding, and how we needed to use the funding. Next slide.
So in order to achieve your goals and take on a project like this, it's important to understand the complexity of your project and clearly communicate your vision. But first, it's important to have discussions with your stakeholders and find out what they find important, if they're willing to be on this journey at all, and assess what their needs might be in order to indicate what success looks like. For example, partners might need volunteers to be trained on a particular platform because it's what they use. Leadership might want to know how many volunteers have been trained and how long it takes to do so. And volunteers may want to know how much of a time commitment something is requiring with trainings and practice outside of these trainings. And what are some other things that you might need in place in order to create a solid foundation? So these are a series of questions that might be able to help you do that. So in other words, thinking about how does technology enhance opportunities? What pre-work needs to be done? And that might be something along the lines like, they need to have access to the internet first and foremost. Is it at their home, at their residence, or do they have to go somewhere to have access to internet? What skills are required? Do they have the language and understand what that language is in order to even launch a program? What permissions, protocols, and procedures need to be in place? Next slide.
So both Melissa and I started to look at what do we need to do again to move forward? How do we address the fears about new technology? How do we make sure that everybody feels comfortable with starting something new? And why should they do this? And when we started talking about fighting isolation and getting involved, that seemed like the best way for our volunteers to be comfortable with using new skills, not only now, but also beyond. So this was in that time when we weren't sure how long are we going to be doing this? And is this something that we would be using in the future? So we started to address what fears they might have, how they might feel safe, what barriers or hesitancy may they have? Is this something that I really have to do? And we also started to look at setting realistic expectations. Like, what is it that is realistic for us to do? How much can we do this? Talking to our partner agencies and people who might want to be involved with this and make sure that they understood what it was. We also understood that you have to be organized with all of your files and documents, and we're going to get into it, and the data that we were collecting, and making sure that everything was centralized and streamlined. We did a lot of collaborating with our staff. We did a lot of collaborating with our volunteers who had started working with us on Zoom so that we could hear their wonderful ideas. We also understood that there are going to be people, and this is a quote from Simon Sinek, there are going to be early adopters, people who are ready to jump on board right away. And then there are those who will join later once they see how much fun everybody's happening. And then there are those who will still use a rotary phone because that's what they have. And so keeping all of that in a realistic format was one of the key factors that we kept in mind when we were getting started and started making our communication and planning tools. Next slide. So here we are. We're going to go into our breakout room. I'm hoping that Randy had a chance to get that document already and downloaded for you, because within the document and in your breakout room, you're going to have a chance to discuss getting started objective using the 3 guiding questions in the workshop planning tool. After the discussion, if no one's talking, then take a few moments to jot down your own ideas about how you might be able to get started in your own practice program and how you might want to move forward. So this would be breakout room for about 10 minutes. And there'll be a 1-minute warning when you're about to come back into the main session. And thank you again for your patience while we get all these things figured out. Ready to go?
Yep, so I'm gonna send people to breakout rooms. You should get a pop-up on your screen that you can accept the option to go into the breakout room, and we will go from there. I'm taking just a second. I had to do quick math to figure out how many rooms we need.
And so while you guys are in the room, you'll just be taking a look at objective 1, getting started. There's 3 questions listed on the document that Randy shared in the chat. So you want to download that, and I'll just read them as people are going into the rooms. What resources do you currently have, and what resources do you need? How will you capture the data to determine program needs and impact? And how will you answer the questions of who, what, where, and how when communicating and planning? We'll see you soon.
Here we go.
This is our first time doing breakout rooms today.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Randy, how many breakout rooms did you have to make?
We did 22 because there were 88 people still on when we did that. And I'm just moving a couple people around. Like there was a room, somebody in a room with Emily, but Emily's not going to be in there. So I put them in a room that had 3.
Very cool.
Just,
And thanks for saving the day with the document. We appreciate that.
no, it was fine. I have the slowest email in the free world. So the fact that it came through so quickly was very surprising. So that worked out well.
With all the filters and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I sometimes get a reply message to an email before I get the original message. It's just bizarre, but.
That's funny. Not funny, but funny.
So when we were in the Jamboard, I was like clicking on things, and now I have on my screen all these like red and yellow and like lines, like drawings.
Yeah.
Can you guys see those, or is that just me?
No,
You
I
can see them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. But I wonder. I don't know.
Like maybe when I close the whole window, it will go away.
I think so, yeah.
So Melissa, how long did it take you guys to get this off the ground? Like after you started some of the initial discussions?
Well, when we first did it, it was like probably April when we first started doing Zoom trainings, but with everyone having the same device since December. So I guess if you look at it, we were just letting anybody come to the trainings and have devices. So they were senior companions and foster grandparent volunteers. It took since April to have that. So, and we have actually a lot of strong folks who've just been dabbling in the trainings since then that really have gotten super good. And I don't know if you probably remember the Academy of Excellence graduation. And so that's kind of how we started. We knew that we wanted them to share their presentations. And so we would just meet weekly with the rest, like a lot of the other state, like the rest of the state where the volunteers were, just anywhere, come and join and practice. And there wasn't a whole lot of curriculum, but then when we started with the iPads with the Tech Connect program, then it was all curriculum. Like, we're all going to start together. We're going to do this, that kind of thing. And it lasts 4 weeks to do the curriculum from beginning to end. So it's a lot for them, but they do amazing, and it's so fun to see their progress.
I'm just kind of giggling thinking about some of my senior companions from when I was there. Like I can imagine the ones that maybe picked it up more quickly. And then I can imagine some of the other ones who may have had more challenges or just not done it at all.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, there's some who speak Mandarin.
Melissa, is this recording ours or is it recording the breakout sessions?
Ours.
Okay.
No, it's recording the main sessions.
Okay, so it's recording what we're saying right now.
Mhm.
Okay, just,
So we'll edit out.
oh, okay, thanks. How did you know where I was moving towards?
I wasn't going to say any names, but we have a couple of folks that are doing so well, Emily, that I think you probably remember, and we're just so proud of their progress. They're so determined. Great. Yeah.
And so then through this, this is maybe more applicable to the foster grandparents, but through after the curriculum and such, have they been able to start like participating in the classrooms or anything like that with the teachers, or doing like online groups or anything?
They're starting to. And that's because, so like our first cohort was in February. And so they just finished. But to be honest, those folks are mentoring the new folks. And so that's kind of our processes. We're asking them to kind of scaffold and support each other throughout it. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Emily, if you, just so that when people come back in, if you want to have objective 2 screen up.
I was going to say the same, yeah.
I can't believe after all of that, I swear I tested that Jamboard like 4 ways. I had my husband see if he could go in. It says if you have a link, and the only thing I can think of is that some of the Google platform, and this is one of the obstacles, sometimes if you don't have a Gmail account, it won't let you use it. And so I had him test it with his what did he have? He had an AOL account, and he got in. So you just never know. Maybe the link expired on the Jamboard.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was weird.
Yeah, but my goodness, I think anything you can think of sometimes. I remember teaching a class and I got dropped like 4 times during it was like my turn, you just.
It's fun.
Yeah. Just curious. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead, Melissa.
We're just about time in closing the breakout rooms. So I don't know if anybody's been keeping time, but I think are
they popping back in?
We're at about 3 minutes.
Okay. So I went in one breakout room and no one was saying anything. So it may be that 10 minutes is too long. I don't know. We'll see. But they were like, I answered a couple of questions and then came back here. But anyway.
And we can break early if you all want to do that. Just let me know. I can give them a 1-minute warning now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With technology, I'm so lucky that my husband is on sabbatical this month because he's not sucking any of our bandwidth for his own work this week.
Okay, so I gave the 1-minute warning, so we'll bring folks back in just a minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like doing this. Is fun. The breakout rooms are fun for me. So.
I think that's the most important thing, is them working with each other, but maybe it was just the particular breakout room I was in. like crickets, but maybe it was because I was there and I just needed to leave so that they could talk about, can you believe they didn't have it organized better?
That's funny.
I like that 1 minute countdown clock. I always, like, it's not a big deal, but I always get like a little bit, we only have 1 minute. We have to hurry and share.
Yep.
Okay, so we're about at a minute from that last 1 minute. So I'm going to close the rooms and bring everybody back.
Okay.
Oh, that gave them a 60-second warning.
Okay.
And I think we can get to the objective number 2.
Okay.
Oh, did I move again?
Yeah, but that's okay. I think it's just the one right after. Yep.
We're at 30 seconds now.
And I see nice
Okay.
little red and yellow lines on your screen.
I don't know. I don't get it.
It happens to me a lot, and I always end up like wiping my screen thinking it's something on my screen, and it's not. It's like as part of a presentation. It's funny.
Well, that was an interesting experience. I think that's my first breakout room I've ever been to on Zoom.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that was
Well,
fun.
welcome back, everybody.
Great. Are the breakout rooms closed now? I think it looks like we've got everybody back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll be starting objective 2, which is about implementation. And so go ahead and next slide, please. So as we begin the section of implementation, it is to point out sometimes that even when you do everything you can to prepare, still some things might go awry. So for example, earlier today, but also even despite platform issues, so in our Tech Connect program, we actually have purchased devices, keyboards, and of course the charging cord to be sent to our volunteers. Well, we wound up getting confirmation that the package that contained these items arrived to the wrong person. So it was the same name, first and last name of the person. They were in an apartment complex, and it went to the wrong first name and last name of the person. And this person was so upset that they received this package that didn't belong to them, that they'd received. In fact, they were threatening us to get it back. And of course, it had come from another city, out of town, to be delivered to them. Well, it wound up taking another day to have the delivery service pick up the package, mail it back to our Flagstaff office, and Flagstaff to take care of it and send it back to the right person. So all in all, it took an additional about 5 days for the correct recipient to receive it. And it worked out okay, but this is just another example of how things can sometimes, it just happens and it's out of your control. So in this section, we're going to address any practical skills required to use the platform you choose, as well as delivering any content, and help you identify and navigate obstacles and opportunities, manage data. And then of course, we're going to end this section with another takeaway, with another breakout. All right, next slide.
So you have to make a lot of decisions. What type of platform knowledge do you have? Which one will you use? What does your organization use? How will you help people connect, identify limitations and advantages? What is the content knowledge? And we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between content knowledge and platform knowledge. So one of the things that we learned along the way was that if I'm presenting on Zoom and I'm using my PC to do my presentation, and we're training everybody on an iPad, which is another type of device or use, when I want to share my screen about what it looks like if I'm going to share some information, it will look different in my PC than it will on the iPad. And so you have to have that knowledge and that understanding so that when you're in the training, you can, like what we figured out, have someone who's a training partner. So you have two trainers in the room, and the one trainer is there ready to share their screen on the iPad, and they can show exactly what's happening to the participants in that real platform. Because it's not going to help anybody if I'm using my PC platform in a Google Work Drive that isn't the same as how it looks on the iPad itself. So you have to answer those questions and what's going to work best for you. We've been learning how to use Teams in our staff too. Teams is different than Zoom. Do you want to do that? And there's still Skype out there somewhere as a platform that some people use. But if you have that knowledge, so are we going to be using Teams and all of the different work programs or workspace that they use? Are we going to use Google? What are we most comfortable with, and why is that important? What's the difference between the two things? And then content knowledge, like I'm pretty good at Google, even though sometimes you saw today it didn't work like I expected, but that's why you don't know. And so you have to make those decisions. You have to compare the two. You're going to have meetings, and how long should they be and how often should they be when you're working with your different communication tools and how you move forward. Right now we're meeting once a week, and that does not seem like too much. Sometimes Melissa and I meet twice a week, and sometimes that doesn't seem like enough. So you have to figure these things out. And these are some of the skills that you need to know as if what your facilitator should have for this particular program. Next slide.
So various platforms have different advantages and disadvantages to folks as individuals, organizations, and also to your community members. So for example, if again, what Deidre, just to echo what Deidre said, that if your organization uses Microsoft Teams, but you use Zoom moving forward, and perhaps you use the free Zoom account, then know that perhaps you're going to have a limit on the amount of time that you can visit during a Zoom training, that you may not have access to breakout rooms. How is that going to impact your meeting or the number of people that you're meeting with? Maybe it's not that big of a deal, but perhaps it's a deal breaker. So the other thing we also want to encourage you to think about is asking for volunteers to help you implement the training. So whether these are people that are community members or these are people on staff, you really want people who are interested in helping you with the process to be your champions and help you implement it with your team. So you really, especially when something is new, you need lots of perspectives and lots of support in any way that you can get it, but being mindful about it. The more clear and concise your instructions, the better. Remember to keep it simple. Next slide.
So managing data. Why data? Data is super important. If you don't collect the data and you don't have it organized, then you can't tell everybody why what you've done is great and why they should do it too. So you have to start with building consensus. So you go to your community members and ask them, this is what we're getting ready to do. Are you interested? How many are interested? You talk to your leadership and explain to your leadership, the leadership within your program or your community, and you need to share the data that supports what's going on. talking to your participants. And this was a big data piece for us. We asked our participants what type of device they were using, how comfortable were they using it, would they participate in training, why or not would they participate in training, what would it take? And we collected a lot of this data before we even started the program or purchased the iPads. We started to talk to our facilitators. What is it that you need? What are the devices that you need? What kind of training do you need? So you have to have that background data. And then you can start to share that and show that, like what we're doing with you. Like, why are we doing this? Why is this important? We knew, and we had the data again that shows that isolation is very, very difficult and hard on our seniors. And it actually creates for them a place where they start to decline if they don't have connection. And I think there's even data out there now that some people are more like retirees because we're so isolated, we're starting to all act old. So if we want to stay young, we need to connect. So within that data that backs it up, then we can move to collaboration. What are the different resources that we need? What are the protocols? What steps do we need to take? What procedures do we have in place to make sure that that happens? So my example of resources is before we had gone to our NAU IT department and they were on board. They said they would support our iPads and our participants, and we're so excited to do this. They saw the value. When we were doing our training, Melissa and I would be answering questions that were really beyond our pay grade. And it was taking us a lot of time because our participants kept calling us and saying, I don't know how to do this. I've locked myself out of my iPad. And so that we were like, well, you need to call IT, but we hadn't really focused on that in our training. We hadn't said, you need to first go here and see if that can solve your issue before coming to Melissa and I, who have some tech skills, but we can't answer them all. And we don't have the power that our IT department is. So making sure that you have that in place and you understand it. So we started to tell our participants, have you called IT yet? And we gave the number out and again, and they started to use them. And so IT is probably going, why are you sending so many people to us? Actually, they're very excited and they're collecting data on that as well. So next slide.
And just to build on what Deidre was saying is that our partnership with the IT department actually is quite unique because they're actually supporting community members. And so we've been identified as saying, this is such an interesting and unique type of partnership. So the point is that sometimes looking in-house is also just as valuable as looking outward to your community members and just finding unique ways that you can create your own partnerships. So now we're going to be heading back into the breakout rooms, and we're going to be asking you, for those of you that may not have already downloaded the Word document that Randy put in the chat, go ahead and do so at this moment. And now we're going to be taking a look at the objective 2 questions that are going to be guiding your discussion in the breakout room. And before we head into the breakout room, I'm just going to ask them real quick. What are the skills you and your program need to implement an iPad or similar training program? What content and platforms do you use now, and how would they assist with moving forward? What are the key obstacles and opportunities specific to your program? And how will you track and share the information and data in order to manage the program's information and to establish successes and any needs for improvement? So those can be found again on that Word document. It says no link to the document. You just have to double tap on the W with the arrow moving down, and then it should download right to your computer. All right, we'll see you guys in a couple of minutes.
Okay, here we go.
Remember to hit join. Melissa, I was going to go through and see if there was any questions that we might want to address right away, like getting the document. And I like the t-shirt with the spit happens. There was a comment. So I'm just going to look through real quick and see if there was anything. Someone keeps getting kicked out, but that's not anything we can take care of.
Yeah.
That went a little smoother. That's because we didn't add any extra technology to it.
Yeah. And I think we'll be fine. We have just this last section, and so we'll need to be careful that we don't run up on the end of our time, because we only have 20 minutes left and they're still in the breakout room.
Yeah. We're doing okay on time. I didn't even see that.
No,
By the way, we're behind.
about-
Okay, so stop yakking.
Well, it's okay. We just want to leave an opportunity for people to ask questions at the end. And
Right.
So Emily, will we have a hard 4 o'clock stop, or is it before that?
No, we built in, I think, an extra 15 or 20 minutes on the back end. So we'll have some flexibility. We'll need maybe 3 minutes at the end to share a couple of links and that.
Okay, that'll be perfect. Yep.
Hello, this is Marlo. The individuals I was in my breakout session with couldn't unmute themselves.
Oh,
Hmm.
did they call in, Marlo? Do you know?
No. I'm not sure. I thought maybe I could unmute them, but I couldn't unmute them, so.
What room are you in, Marlo?
14.
Okay, let me see. It looks like they didn't join. They both show as not joined, which means they didn't accept the invitation to go into the breakout room. I don't know why it's showing that if they're in there.
They were in there. I think they just left because they couldn't unmute themselves.
So sometimes like a real quick way to unmute yourself is using the space bar if you're on a computer, or if they're on a phone, it's *6. Just so you know, Marlo, I know that doesn't help your situation, but
All right, thanks.
you're welcome.
Sorry you didn't get a chance to meet with your group, because that's really where we're hoping that the best ideas or discussion may come from. Did you have any questions for us?
I was just looking at the link that was sent.
For the document?
Yeah, the document.
So it for whatever reason, the link didn't work, but if you go into the chat box, there's now a Word document there. Did you see that? Should be one of the most recent chats.
I don't see it in the chat. I just see the link.
Let me get there. Let's see. Randy, are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Could you repost the document again in the chat? We'll just keep reposting it here and there.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of people saying access is denied. Hang on. Do you see it now, Marlo? If you scroll all the way down, you should see a W with an arrow in the chat box.
Yeah, I see it now. I'm going to download it.
Okay, yeah, just hit the arrow. Thank you.
We're at 2.5 minutes left for the 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and give them a warning because I think since we're running just a little tight.
Okay, we'll do it now.
Thanks, Randy.
No problem. Yeah, they just got the 1 minute warning, so they'll all be back shortly.
Okay. Is it a 1 minute warning or a 1 minute warning that they're getting a 1 minute warning?
It's a 1 minute warning that the rooms will close in less than a minute.
Okay.
The countdown clock is on.
Thanks.
I heard somebody say they always feel like MacGyver, like they have to like hurry and get the last words out before the bomb goes off or something like that.
I like that.
Workshop last?
Everybody's coming back.
How long does this workshop last?
You're already ready to go. It's like,
No,
when do
no,
we
it
get
isn't.
there?
It
It's
isn't that.
it's 4
I have
o'clock.
to
Is when.
medicate. Okay, I have to medicate a dog at 4. That's why I just,
Okay.
thanks.
So we're on objective 3, and if we can go to the next slide. Delivery. And we're going to be moving a little bit faster now because we had already decided to do it, but also because we want to get everybody the information that they need. So in this section, we're going to identify the obstacles and opportunities, looking at how you review the opportunities and backup training options. So, and then we'll also do the takeaway. Next slide. So some questions that you need to consider. And we've been talking a little bit about this. How will you deliver the training? Are you going to be doing it on Zoom, on Team? Are you going to be doing it in person? Because there's some places where you might be able to start to do that. And how will it look? How will you engage your participants? What types of ways are you going to help them to be a part of it? Melissa and I do a lot of experiential learning or project-based learning where they're actually doing what we're asking them to do so that they can learn how to do it. They have homework, they do it within their training, but we engage them in that way. What platform does your organization use? Is that the platform you want to use? Is it accessible to others? So we've already experienced that a little bit today. Melissa and I tested our documents. We thought they would work, but they didn't. So we have to make sure that they're accessible so that people can get to them. Are there prerequisites or pre-work activities? We had one prerequisite to get started, and that was that they had attended one of our Zoom trainings and they had email. And so those were some prerequisites that we had put together. Next slide.
All right, So it is important to build in opportunities for participants to establish relationships with each other throughout the process, throughout the journey. When participants can get to know each other, they can practice their new skills. They can also practice teaching each other by answering questions, also sharing their experiences. And this is one way to reinforce deep learning. Establishing ground rules is also really important, such as how to ask questions, what days and times to call someone or each other, what types of questions should be asked to what person. These are important to clearly define right away, so that way it eliminates or reduces undue stress and frustration when at all possible. But of course, as you guys know, technology, is not only about the person distributing and conducting the training, but is also about the user. What is their comfortability? What experience are they bringing to that meeting as well? So as the designer of this training, you will need to decide if it is necessary to put the needs of the group over the needs of the individual. For example, would you rather address someone's specific need in real time, or would you rather establish a specific time to address the needs, like before a training or perhaps after it? These are decisions that you'll need to have to make. How will you handle early arrivals? Will you allow folks into the training so that way you can answer their questions? Or is this the time that you're giving people to socialize and it's offering a relationship building component? Again, these are very important things to consider. And finally, will you allow participants alternative ways to connect to your training? So for example, if they get booted out of Zoom because they have an unstable connection, do you have a phone number that they can call in lieu of that? Are there other ways that you think that they might be able to access the training, such as a recording, that might be helpful later? This is also an opportunity for participants to learn other ways to solve problems outside of the trainings, such as during their service. Next slide.
So back to what do you need to do? How can your participants make up a session? Do you allow them to participate in another one? We also have recordings that we share with our participants, and we have a slide deck that we share with our participants. That way they can either make it up or they can catch up. Can they revisit? We've allowed our participants to come to any one of our trainings. They can come to the whole thing, or they can just come to the one that they missed. What kind of alternative options do you have for them to get the training? And that would be along with things like backup resources, where we have we found a site that's Get Started or Senior Planet. They're really wonderful, very slow paced sessions where people can get the training again. So we have backup resources, we have alternative options. We can come back and look at that. These are some backup training options that you may want to have. Next slide. We have another takeaway room, and I'm not sure, but do you want to maybe have this wrapped into our next one, Melissa?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Thanks, Steve.
We are on the same page. We're gonna forego this takeaway room and set that up for later and move on.
Thank you. So what I did while Deidre was with the last slide is I went ahead and put that website, the URL, I put it into the chat. So that way you have an access to take a look at this really great free resource. So here's our conclusion. So as we've done throughout the process, we know that we're making a difference, and we know that this training is going to be helping our volunteers get back to service and continue moving forward. For example, volunteers are more confident in using their iPads, asking questions and trying new things. They're staying connected on a regular basis. Like Deidre mentioned before, that helps their quality of life. It helps them to stay active and engaged. It helps to combat isolation. They are moving beyond their immediate geographic location, and those are dissolving. That's really exciting. In fact, they're making new friends that serve like they do, but in other regions of the state. And I think that is so powerful. So this has been a really wonderful process, and we wanted to be able to share this opportunity because it's an important way to keep our programming moving, to keep our missions alive, and to do the work that they enjoy doing, and to do this together. Next slide.
So we've been talking about what you need to do. We also want to tell you, don't stop because it's not perfect. Good is enough. You may be fixing it up and making it better and better along the way, and that's what we've done. It's a meaningful thing to be doing. It really, the last time I talked to the participants, one of the things they said was that they were starting to feel comfortable with their iPads. They were starting to feel comfortable with technology. They weren't afraid of what was happening with them. Some of them have been able to connect with other people. They've stayed connected through their Zoom trainings. And we've seen that in our program, we're able to deliver our in-service trainings are able to be much more effective because we can do statewide trainings now. And the volunteers are connecting with each other. So we have friends that are building from Southern Arizona to Northern Arizona to Eastern Arizona to Western Arizona. And that's a wonderful place. Create a plan, revise, do over, go slow. It will evolve and it'll be okay. Next slide.
All right, so although our goal is to build a robust program that's meaningful and helpful to participants, we acknowledge that we're in unique times. We want to encourage you to, of course, do your best and understand that building a program like ours is fluid and regular changes and updates might be appropriate. So the point is, move forward anyway. It may not be perfect, but I think that's part of the beauty, is to show that things happen and we can navigate no matter what, because the whole point of this is to do it together and make a difference in our communities. Next slide.
So you have a little bit of time. We're running close, but go ahead and make any additional notes or questions or things that you might have that are still hanging out there. I did take a look at the takeaways or the questions in the chat box, and you guys have put some wonderful things out there for other people to think about, but we want to give you an opportunity to ask any other questions. And Melissa, next slide.
All right, so I'm putting another website in the chat as we're talking. This is really great for seniors 55 and better that might also be helpful. It's called Senior Planet. All right, so as far as individual reflection, I think we've given people an opportunity to do that. So go ahead and next slide.
Yes, thank you.
So we realize that this session has been jam-packed. Oh, go ahead and go back, please, with the contact information. We know that there's only so much time that we have to be with you this afternoon to share what our experience is. And what Deidre and I really want to do is become a resource for you. So if you have a question, if you have an idea that you want to develop and move forward on, please feel free to reach out to either or both of us. We're happy to support you in this endeavor. We know it's challenging and we need to be champions for each other. So we want you to know that we're here for you to help you as you move forward with the exciting journey ahead. Next slide, please. So at this time, we'd like to open it up to any questions. We can read them in the chat, or of course you can unmute yourself and we'll hear your questions.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute. You may also use the raise hand feature, which would be available at the bottom of your screen. And then one of the hosts can unmute you, invite you to ask questions if you have any.
Question. Can you put that site back up again for the senior? I'd like to download it. I lost it. I've been having intermittent problems with my system. So is there a way you can put it back up there to download?
For the Senior Planet, I think, Melissa, was the link.
Oh, okay, got it. I'll put it up there.
Oh, no. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's see. That one. Ah, I don't want that. I want to download it, but it's not allowing me to download it.
No, it's just a website that it will take you to.
Oh, okay. I was hoping I could. Okay.
Yeah. So what I can explain, so the two websites that I just shared, the links to these websites, these are free websites and they have trainings on various different things like foundational technology training, like joining Zoom or using different devices. They have them in different languages like Spanish and Mandarin, but they also change their options for training often. Some of it also centers around mindfulness. Sometimes it's about cooking. Sometimes it's about health and wellness, exercising, like things like yoga, book clubs, that kind of thing. So these are really wonderful websites that actually partner with national service organizations throughout the United States. So these are really organizations that know about national service and how to keep our volunteers healthy and engaged.
Can you tell me what the senior one was? I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the site that you put up.
Go ahead if you.
Oh, I got get set up. I have not, but where is the senior one?
If you scroll up a little bit in the
go.
chat.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Planet.org.
Yes.
And I do see one question in the chat box. It says, what is the hardest thing about teaching tech over Zoom?
So I will say that in comparison, we've done it both ways, where we had people using devices that they personally owned, and it could be literally anything. And that can be really hard because, especially when you don't have the language to articulate what it is that you're experiencing and feeling and seeing, that can be a real challenge because you can't be right there, right next to that person to help navigate them. But what's been nice is having all the same device is we've been able to mitigate some of that. And we have a lot more scaffolding in place, like Deidre has talked about with our IT support. However, there are still issues that are experienced. And I will just say that everybody comes in with a different level of comfortableness and confidence and a different level of experience. And any of those things can really dictate the flow of the training.
I think it's much easier in person rather than Zoom to deal with things that you have to change on the fly. Where if something didn't work today when I was trying to open up the chat to everybody, everything was moving too fast for me to be able to change it so that people could get onto the Jamboard. It was managing that. I needed to have an assistant at my side, which Randy, thank you. You did that very beautifully, and Emily. But it's almost like you need 4 people managing what's going on. So one person can answer chat questions, another person's sharing their screen, another person's leading the presentation, and another person's answering live questions. So I think it's that trying to be 4 different people at once, where in person you can kind of manage that a little bit better.
Great, thank you. And I see a lot of thank you for the info, great presentations. So thank you both for being here.